Welcome back to another episode of Grit inside Manhattan Beach Studios. I'm Victoria Dennis alongside Meg Burgdorf, and there's no other recognizable mustache than this man sitting next to us, Matsa. Welcome.
Thank you very much for having me here today, and always here and always enjoy it.
I love it. The ultimate scorekeeper on the beach. How did you get started in beach volleyball?
It took a long time. In 1970, I was brought down to the Santa Monica Pier by my high school buddy. Had never played before. In fact, growing up, University High School, went to Sorrento, Station 16 at the time. And of course, at that age, at 14, 15, 16 years old, we're all hanging around the lifeguard station. No clue what's happening up by the wall, which is when volleyball started at that time with your Von Hagens. Never made it up there. Yes, we made it to the Grill. That was the restaurant there at the time. And there was this one guy who always rode his bicycle there that us kids made fun of at that time, which is not acceptable looking back. And he's still with us, Marty. Marty would ride a bicycle in the sand. And it's great to see him still around today as we all got older.
And then you fell in love with the game of
Yes.
beach volleyball.
Going down the Santa Monica Pier, my guy, as I said, took me down there. We played against this guy and a girl. It turned out to be Eileen Clancy, and this guy was Butch May. And of course, we got our rear ends kicked, and I've been there every day since. And in fact, looking back at volleyball, at my brother's bachelor party, he had basketball as one of the things that all the bachelors did. He said, this is 91, so I'm a young guy. And he said, Steve, do you want to play one and sit one? I said, no, I'll just play. Little did I realize then that basketball, you're running up and down the court. Volleyball, you got to go walk over slowly to go shag the ball. And so, of course, out of breath. And starting to play at the pier, I was on the third court with a Spider and a Bud Grit, and they were all in their mid-70s at that time. And I'm, 25 years old, give or take. And they would always, even going back then, shag the balls for me. They knew I wasn't going to shag. I would do logistics, still now. You guys put the ropes on. I'm going to stand in the middle, so it's lined up with a pole. But as far as digging holes, that's not what I do. And it's been enjoyable every day.
Amazing. So you started kind of back with the challenge courts in Santa Monica.
Yes.
And the workup court.
Yes.
Do you think that's missing now?
Oh, it's most definitely. I mean, you have a list and you sign your name. Mm-hmm. And at that time, of course, with the scoring, if you lose, you might play again at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. But I was always the first one down there. And if you play on one court, your name gets crossed off on all the courts. And it was funny at that time, people would come up and say, I play the left, I can't play with you. I play the right, can't play with you. But today, no one cares.
Right.
And people who never moved over, and we were lucky enough at the Santa Monica Pier to have Randy Stokely come down, Pat Powers, Hooper, later on in life, Dennis Hare, and never mind Butch May regular, but us guys, as we got older, we were lucky enough to play with them. And we had this one guy, Vito, a Russian. He was Nikita Khrushchev's tailor in Russia going way back. He would ask you, the double or triple A player, to play with them, and they're warming up on the court. And then coming down the hill would be Randy. And he would say to the guy he's warming up with, you wait, you wait, and I play with Randy. He would do that to someone. Not cool. But that was good.
But you have a huge win under your belt just in this last year at the Dyno, winning the Dyno with Taylor Crabb.
Second.
Second.
Yeah.
Taking second,
Yeah.
sorry. You guys lost to?
Jeff Rogers.
That's right. That's right. So tell me what it's like in beach volleyball to be a part of that community, still competing, still playing with these young guys. How do
Still
you
heckling.
still heckling.
And I'm lucky enough to win most of my games, all of my games. I expect to win every one.
Well, you're not really a betting man, but you kind of are. Talk to us a little bit about these, battles with some of the young up-and-comers.
Well, every one of my matches going back has been for money. I would have a top player playing against two B players. But as I've gotten older and my partners have gotten higher in the rankings, there's now different rules. Most of the time, my opponents, when their ball is returned, it cannot hit the tape. That would be my point.
Okay, I like it.
Of course, they're getting odds to play. Taylor and I, as well as going back to Nick Lucina and I, we lost 2 out of our first 3 games. It's an experience. You have to realize you're passing to an older gentleman and not to a 14-year-old young lady who might be a little quicker than I am. But it's wonderful to have played with Taylor. And I've been lucky enough to play with Dana Camacho. But Nick Lucina was wonderful. Andre, you're old enough to remember Andre? But Andre wasn't that much fun because his jump serve would knock down the opponent.
Right.
Where I want rallies so I can get a good workout. And I tried to play with Lucas Wisnowski, but he couldn't do it. Wexler couldn't do it. John Mayer and Billy Allen in their prime, they would come down and play with me to get touches, which they need. And it's been an absolutely wonderful experience, which is still going on.
You are in I want to say an encyclopedia of beach volleyball. And it is just so fun to talk with you about this sport and getting to know you. And it's just been quite the adventure for the AVP the last few decades. And you've been a really big part of that, from sponsoring athletes to keeping score to being in the trenches day in and day out here in the South Bay. What has your experience been like alongside the AVP for the last, maybe we can narrow it down, the last 10 years?
10 years is present day.
Right.
You go back to Mr. Armato and Billy Berger and Jason, whoever that Jason was with the red hair, and, who was an owner for a while, Johnsonville time, I think. Hodel. It has its ups and downs, but the way it is now, a lot of the riffraff is disappearing.
What do you mean riff-raft?
Well, it's made for pros only. Just like I would like to play in a qualifier again with Steve Van Sweeten or whoever else can do that work. But that's not happening these days. And so it takes some of us out of the sport. I mean, not knowing where the money goes or how things are expense-wise happening, I thought qualifiers with 190 teams in them were absolutely a money-making deal. Obviously not. And
that's a very big change that's
yes.
starting to come in. So the AVP used to have open qualifiers for many events.
And some of them were 2-day qualifiers.
Right.
In Chicago and Manhattan. And so that's what I mean by the riffraff, the people who are not pros. Right. I mean, just like your league, which is going to grow. You know, there's certain people who aren't going to play in the league, and no matter what the rules are, but that's the way we're going.
Yeah, and seeing these athletes, you follow NCAA volleyball, you're name dropping names left and right on the rosters for NCAA volleyball, and it's just so fun to hear you talk. You're a fan first, but you're really an expert at this game. You've watched it for some time and have played it as well. What's your opinion on athletes coming out of collegiate beach volleyball trying to make it on the AVP?
Well, it's changing every year. I mean, if you go back 5, 6 years ago, you were watching 18-year-old college kids beating the wannabe pros. And now every so often, you know, you've dropped down a few years. You have 14, 15-year-olds beating the wannabe pros. That's why out here we have the CBVA, and I know what happens in Florida quite a bit too with the tours they have there.
Do you think there's opportunity for athletes coming out of college to play at the pro level?
Well, I always suggest that you go back to beach volleyball database and look how much someone like a 5th or 7th place player was making at an event in 1990. And that's what number 3 is making today. And the top 5 I consider pros. And you know, after that, you know, your 7s and 9s, they're interchangeable every event.
And what's inspired you to sponsor these pros?
I've enjoyed the sponsorship part. The Matsa is one of the original eBay stores.
We have the tattoos. You see those around.
But and it's a certain type of player that I look for. I mean, when you have Oakley and Nike sponsoring you, you don't necessarily need a Matsa tattoo sponsorship. I remember I started off, one of my first big players was Betsy Flint. And, you know, John Mayer introduced us, and, you know, as a young player, you need that extra dollars for dinner that night. And I guess when she was playing with Kelly, because Kelly wore it quite often also. And I had Brad Keenan when he played with John Mayer, and both of them. Never Billy Allen, and never, well, I Sean Rosenthal, you know, once when he played with Dana. It's been enjoyable. And Taylor and Trevor, you know, my top players now, never Phil. But if there's time, he's going to be playing for a long time, and maybe there'll be a Matsa tattoo one day.
There you go. There you go. Phil's getting quite the mileage in his retirement here.
I don't see retirement. He's going to be there as long as anyone.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So as all of these changes are happening on the World Tour, on the domestic AVP Tour, what do you see the future, or maybe some lessons learned from the historic, trials and tribulations we're even seeing fours pop up? Like, what is your pick for the future in terms of what you think will beach volleyball be successfully?
I really don't know. But it is getting limited. People are realizing that you got to be a pro.
Right.
I mean, where years ago when you stopped playing, you started to sell medical devices. I think Matt Prosser and Stafford are good examples of players who went into that. And now players are doing coaching, whether it be a paid assistant or volunteer assistant or the podcast. And it's growing. You know, waiters. You go back to Chad Mowry, who was a waiter at the Chart House in Redondo down here, and it's changing all the time.
So it's definitely dividing more pro level and then for everybody else.
Absolutely, absolutely.
What do you think that's going to do to the community of beach volleyball that has had its identity or culture for so long moving forward?
I don't think pro volleyball here is growing. There's a lot more participants, but, and I have no problem with it, you know, less people are going to be saying they're professional volleyball players.
Right.
You know, a lot of people on their social media, you know, what's their occupation? We had a guy down playing with us in Santa Monica many years, and his license plate on his car said AVP player. He's won as many games in a qualifier as I have. That's.
But there's definitely a community there of people that want to be part of something. Do you see that maybe a Forest Tour or another type of
I don't
offering?
want to see fours.
Okay.
I mean, you got the Manhattan Beach 6-man, which I've been lucky enough to win twice.
Who'd you win with?
The first one was Monkey Butt, John Ensamo, Paul
was
Baxter,
that?
Dave Smith. 20 years ago, maybe more. We had a few Olympians, Jason Ring. And I always say, and by the way, both wins came with Reed Purdy. And Reed would come down, and one of us guys would go park his car for him when he came down at noontime. But, you know, how wonderful it was to win and to play with those guys.
Yeah. We love the 6-man.
Yeah, it's all.
None of them drank. The first time around, none of them drank. And the second time around, most of them didn't drink. We had John Mayer and Billy Allen and the Danny the good, kind of good.
I love it. Let's talk about a little bit of the AVP, the Jose Cuervo days in the 90s. What are some top memories that come to your mind?
All the money, you know, looking back, all the money that a player would make winning. You know, the Killer Loop rep, and I forget, you know, the Killer Loop brand, which was a pretty big sunglass at the time. He would come to the court and change out the lenses in the qualifier for all the players.
Wow.
Which you don't have that anymore.
Right.
You know, and your question was?
Some of the best memories.
Shaq coming down and playing against Misty and Carrie. I think it was Misty and Carrie. The Hard Rock Cafe and the King of the Beach, where an old Matt Gage and I forget who he won that first one with, another older guy. They beat Holly and EY. We were lucky enough to have Marlo and all those guys there watching at that time.
And would you travel around to the different stops?
Absolutely. I would go to all the stops. And I would get there on a Monday, and my wife would always ask, why do I have to be there on Monday? Because the players don't get there until Wednesday or Thursday. And, you know, get used to the time change.
Find the dinner spot.
A lot of different logistics. Yeah.
Logistics,
Yeah.
exactly. So talking about logistics, like you sit and you're often scorekeeping because it's a primo real estate view from
Yes,
that angle. Not to mention, okay, keeping score of the game and everyone's looking at you the whole time. But what is it like having that bird's eye view and seeing how the game has evolved over time?
It's enjoyable to see the players interact with the referees. And it's wonderful to hear when, like a Randy or an OB would talk to a referee. And we're not talking about Marvin. We're talking about any of the refs. And Hovland, Obradovich, them talking to a referee sounds a lot more convincing than some of the players today talking to the referees. the camaraderie is not there today like it was then.
Amongst the athletes?
Well, you know, back then on the stage, you would have 20 athletes there on Saturday and Sunday. Yes, not that many of them had kids compared to today, but the athletes, they have their backpacks on today, you know, as quickly as they lose. And there's no interacting with the other players or groups or people down there, which I disagree with that, but I'm not here to change that.
Yeah. I think there's been a lot of changes over time. What is something that has been done in the past that you would love to see come back in terms of building that culture and keeping beach volleyball what it is?
Well, I would like to see the qualifiers on Wednesday and Thursday.
Especially for the Manhattan Beach Open?
No, because I like to travel and have another day there. I mean, it looks like I'm going to have to get on an airplane to see the league, which is growing. But, and the league is much more enjoyable to watch than the championships that they had in Phoenix a few years ago. Because the championships in Phoenix, the players were serving it off the scoreboard up on top.
Oh, okay.
Which
It's a change.
Not very intense. It's sort of going back to hot winter nights when supposedly the players would meet before the event and decide how the money's going to be split up. There goes your incentive to win. So hopefully the league will keep that incentive.
How did you like the structure of the league, the 3 to 15?
It's okay. It sort of reminds you of New Orleans a few years ago. You're aware? Where the qualifier, I think the games were what, 5 to 7 or something like that. Yeah, I mean, things change. You know, it's been 21, and now they cut it to 15. You got to get used to it. Less room for error.
Yeah, it's interesting too, because as things are changing, LA is going to be the center stage for the next Olympics. We had a run in Paris. We didn't podium, and that was the first time in a while we didn't podium. Now we're hosting in LA. What do you think these next 4 years hold for Team USA and that run to clinching gold for both men and women right here at home?
Well, you know, I think the world has passed USA. And, you know, some of these countries that are even playing today, you wouldn't even know about them 10, 15 years ago. And USA is getting better. We have a couple good women's team and a couple good men's teams. And if Phil would play, they would have more men's teams that could medal. But it's getting better. They, you know, got Sean Scott at USA Volleyball and hopefully a good group.
How do you think the rest of the world caught up and then passed USA?
You know, I guess parts of the world, they put you together with who they want you to play with.
Lots of changes, lots of new changes coming in store for LA.
Paul Baxter was probably one of the toughest to talk to after a loss.
Yeah, he really took it.
Yep,
Took it to
and you
heart.
got to give someone space.
Yeah, absolutely. Everybody's their own different character.
Yep, and that's one of the big changes they have.
No greater character than you.
We're young.
Absolutely. I want to know the backstory of your logo.
Well, you know the backstory of the nickname.
Yeah, let's start with that first.
Okay, playing at the Santa Monica Pier, we all had nicknames. We had a sheikh, who obviously was Egyptian. I was Matsa Ball. Heavier, shorter, the only Jew. And there was another nickname, Johnny Morris. His nickname was the Fetus,
Okay.
which is probably the best nickname. Young 15, 16-year-old kid. And he became a Navy SEAL.
Wow.
And so as I got older, Matza Ball became the Matza.
I love it.
You know, everyone wishes I would move away, but I'm here.
I don't think anybody wishes that.
And, you know, just take a step back with the story. We had a player down there who's no longer with us, Eamon Lucky. And as I said, we were lucky enough to have Randy and Pat Powers coming down and playing with us on weekends or whatever. But Eamon was an older, little better than me player. And he'll tell everyone how he took a young 16-year-old Randy and got him his B, which he did. But he won't tell everyone that the next weekend Randy got his AAA. So we know where the strength of that team was.
And where was the strength of this mustache? How long have we had the strength of the Mazda mustache?
We've always had it. After the service, it has stayed.
You were in the Marine Corps?
Yes, the mustache has stayed. I mean, it probably goes back to, you know, as kids going to school, you couldn't have any facial hair. If you wore sandals, you had to wear them with socks. You know, which changed as life went on. And so I've really enjoyed the mustache. And I enjoy seeing some of the players trying to grow mustaches, you know, like Avery and Tri, they're still working on it.
You could have a wager there in your future.
Yep.
Why the pink hat?
I used to wear a pink hat. I used to have a pink Speedo hat, and Oakley never really came out with a pink hat. So the white hat will do.
I like it.
And the logo? Did you draw that yourself?
No, Di Pearson, who is the volley chick. You guys might remember the name Volley Chick.
Yeah.
Yep, she did that for me.
Nice.
When did she do that?
It's got to be 10, 12 years ago. And,
It just stuck?
yes, it did. The mustache stuck also.
Well, I love it. And you have it on shorts and T-shirts.
Yes,
And it's all
yes.
branded. You'll see athletes wearing it. So we know they're all supported now by you and sponsored.
It's, you know, they see this and they see this. And they're saying, you're that guy.
Yeah.
It's enjoyable. I enjoy it every day.
Absolutely.
But I want the sport to grow. I think the group now, interest, but then all groups, you know, Donald's son did a good job.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think the players appreciated what he did for them. And Al Lau, he's been around forever. He's grandfathered in. And it's going to be a race to see who's going to be there longer, him or I.
There's a wager for
There's
you.
definitely a wager for that one too.
Yeah, but it's always good to see him and everyone else there every year.
Predicting this upcoming season for the AVP, who would you like to see play together?
I'd like to see Trevor playing with Phil. And of course, you got a couple of Taylors playing together. And for the Olympics, I'd like to see a Cody playing with a Trevor, if it was up to me. And, I'd like to see Avery playing with Dylan Merrick. and I'll help find Lev a new partner. It's going to be tough.
It is going to be.
What about on the women's side?
Well, you got Sarah and Kelly for another 8 years, and the LSU ladies look good. If it was up to me, and it's not, I would like to see the young lady from LSU, I believe Kylie.
Kylie York?
No,
DeBerg.
Kylie DeBerg. If
Kaylee York. She's only one of my best friends. Sorry, Kaylee.
if it was up to me, I would like to see Kylie playing with Betsy Flint, but it's not up to me, so got to let the players make their own decision.
You see a lot, though, in the partnership and have navigated a lot over the years. What is some of those keys to successful matchmaking?
In what way? I don't understand that.
In the partnership. So, you know, working with a lot of the athletes that you've sponsored and navigating the changes. I know Vic and I have talked from the coaching standpoint and from the player standpoint. The partnership rigmarole is the hardest part. The conversations, identifying maybe who's an up-and-comer, who could be a good match for you. You have the ear of many athletes in looking at options. What is that like in terms of having those conversations and guiding?
You mean drawing a partner?
Yeah.
Well, going back to Mr. Obradovich's tournament a few years ago, not this one, but the first one, you had DeBerg playing on a team with Savvy and Harwood and Zana. And it was, in watching that, you realize that the big girl's going to get a partner. And they're all being so nice to her because it's going to be one of them.
Right.
And that was enjoyable to watch.
It is
And
definitely a blocker's paradise.
And you know, Tony Rodriguez, there's another one. And, you know, Gina's getting better with age.
Like a fine wine.
Absolutely. I mean, no need at this point to go overseas and come in ninth, but you're doing so well over here.
Right.
And it's going to be interesting to see where a young Tony goes. You know, because that top 2 spots, I think we get 3 for the Olympics, or is that no more?
2.
Okay, it used to be 3, right?
2. Yeah. Well, we think that's what's going to happen.
No, but years ago, did the host country get 3?
Yeah.
I believe so, yeah.
Thank you, thank you.
Yes.
So, you know, and then you got Mrs. Kalinsky going to play again, you know. And, so it's going to be a dogfight up there.
It'll be a fun one to watch.
They all are.
Yep, absolutely. Well, thank you.
Thank you, Gary.
Thank you so much.
Yes, this was a pleasure and so lovely having you and talking some volley.
And I'm free every day if you need me.
Perfect. Done deal.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
We'll see you on the beach for sure. And if anyone else sees you, please come up and say hi to the Matsa.
Will do. Thank you for having me down here.
We'll catch you out on the stand then.
Every 5 years, I'll be here for you.
Okay, deal. Done deal. Well, thank you everybody for tuning in to this episode. Please like and subscribe. Keep it gritty out there. We'll see you next time.